Sometimes in a small church it's hard to find special music. And earlier this week I volunteered to Patty to have special music. However, last night I received a call from our pastor Ricky and things had changed. And so that special music has been canceled and moved to next week. I informed Patty of this, and so she said that was great. However, I was still responsible for special music. So I opened my hymnal, and I'd like you all to open your hymnals to hymn number 362, Lift High the Cross. I had not talked to Elder Ray about this, and as you know, our hymn of praise was Beneath the Cross of Jesus. So I think it was the Lord's will that we have this for special music. It's based on John 12:32, when Jesus told his disciples that he must be lifted up and all men would be drawn to him. Hymn number 362. This hymn was written in the late 1800s as a processional for church. Now I know in our church here, we don't usually have processionals. I don't know why that is, that's most of our tradition. But if you'll go back with me in time, about 9 years ago, late December, my daughter and our future son-in-law were going to get married a few days later. And this is in London, England, and it was probably a day like yesterday, except that it doesn't really usually rain that hard. It's sort of a drizzly, misty rain coming down, but that had cleared up toward evening. And we were all, family, were standing in line. Not you to imagine this is our church family here. We're standing in line. It's about dusk time. The sun is going down, kind of damp. We obviously have coats on, scarves. Everybody wears a scarf in England. It is a damp, cold. Sometimes we have that here in Florida. But we're in line, and the line moves, and we come into church. It is in St. Paul's Church in London. Huge church. And it's eventide on Christmas Eve. And we come in, and we're all sitting down in the chairs. Hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. A huge church, vaulted ceilings. It's only lit by the desk light of the sun setting through the windows and a few candles. And then in the distance, it seemed like more like a football field. It probably wasn't that far. But in the distance, we could hear a choir singing. This is a men, women, and children's choir singing, and a procession is coming down the main altar, up an aisle, And at the head of the procession, a man is carrying on a pole a cross, a probably brass or bronze cross. And that is what you mainly see. You don't really see the people, you hear the choir, but you see this cross high above coming down towards you. And it brings a reminder that about 2,000 years ago, people were standing on the hill outside Jerusalem, and there Jesus was hanging on the cross. They really didn't understand. The disciples, they had heard him say, I must be lifted up, as Moses lifted up in the wilderness, but they really hadn't gotten to that. And again, if you go back to the story of Moses, just think of it. In the wilderness, you're there, you're tense, you've done bad things, God has taken away his protection, serpents are there. Just think, ladies, serpents are all crawling around the floor here, biting people and that. And you hear that if you look up at this bronze serpent, that you can be healed. So you go out, you try to see, well, where is it? Where can you see him? And somebody has Moses or a helper lift it high up so that you can see it over everyone else. And you can lift your children up who have been bitten so that they can see it. So Christ asks us to see him, that his cross is lifted up so that we can share his message to the world. And in this hymn, if you look at it in the third verse, it talks about that on our brows will be the mark of him. Just like we learned about with the three angels' message, we're going to have the mark of him in our foreheads. So I would like us all to participate in this special music. the chorus actually, it starts out, and then you go through the verses, so that at the end of the 5th verse, we will also sing the chorus again for the final time.